Good morning, everyone. I'm joined this morning by, obviously, the mayor, some of my command staff. Some of the command staff, as we speak, is in Syracuse, attending the funeral of Onondaga Sheriff's Deputy Lieutenant Husak. I think it's important we keep the family and the Onondaga Sheriff's Department, as well as the Syracuse Police Department, in mind this morning. So I have a summary of the weekend events. First event, Saturday morning, was on Day Place. At 0212 hours, officers responded to 11 Day Place for the report of a male shot. Officers located 35-year-old Ricky Elliott, a City of Rochester resident, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He was transported to Strong Hospital, where unfortunately he passed away. The investigation into the incident is ongoing, but preliminarily it appears that there was some sort of altercation in the street and that Elliott was shot. On Sunday night at 919 South Clinton Avenue, the Pinnacle Place Apartments, at 8 p.m., officers responded to the location for an unknown medical call. There, 53-year-old Myron Fair was located near the front door of the apartments, suffering from trauma to the upper body. He was transported to Strong Hospital, where he passed away. Again, preliminarily, there appears to have been some sort of altercation in front of the apartments. This appears to be an isolated incident. There does not appear to be any danger to any residents of the apartment building at this time. And then this morning on Bay Street at 4:20 a.m., officers responded to the 100 block of Bay Street after a passerby observed an unresponsive male on the side of the road. Officers located a male in his 40s deceased from at least one gunshot wound to the upper body. Preliminarily, it appears that the victim was an on-duty taxi driver and was robbed of his taxi, which was found abandoned in Central Park. We are in the early investigatory stages of each of these three homicides, so there isn't much more I can say at this point. We are looking for anyone with information that can help us solve them to please call 911, the Major Crimes Unit at 428-7157, Crime Stoppers at 423-9300. You can also email majorcrimes@cityofrochester.gov. And we also have the Report It app. As I've said many, many times publicly, most of our homicides are the result of violent, retaliatory disputes. Most of them result from folks who have a relationship of one kind or another and take to settling their dispute with guns and violence. So although I can't, again, get into too much detail about the most recent ones, I can say most of our homicides are a result of violent retaliatory disputes. And I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight the continuing hard work of the men and women of the Rochester Police Department. I'll take this opportunity, since we haven't had one lately, to just go over some of our year-to-date summary and our efforts. So far, year-to-date, the men and women of the Rochester Police Department have recovered 228 firearms from the streets of Rochester. 182 of these guns have been utilized in a crime. To date, our Special Investigations Section has served 36 high-risk search warrants on locations either affiliated with drugs or weapons. Our Violence Prevention Section, which, as you know, is a new unit we created last year to date, has made 36 proactive arrests. Proactive being when they've identified a person of interest, put the work in, done surveillance, been able to bring that to a successful arrest, with 14 firearms recovered. Our non-fatal shootings team, which again is a new concept, a new team, so far their closure rate since their inception is at 41% of their cases. And if you remember, when we talked about forming this unit, non-fatal shooting clearance rate was historically always under 10%. So they've seen a 20% increase since the team began last year in non-fatal shooting arrests. The Major Crimes Unit has solved approximately 2/3 of our homicides this year to date, and over 70% last year. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention, and this isn't something we put out a lot, but patrol routinely on an average day in a 24-hour period is handling between 200 and 300 calls for service on top of all this excellent work that goes into trying to keep the citizens of our community safe. I'm going to hand it over to the mayor, and we'll take a few questions.
Thank you, Chief. As we were coming up on April, I was very optimistic that we would be able to end April without a homicide, but unfortunately, that is not going to be the case. Let me just say that I want to encourage our community to continue to work overtime to put a stake in the ground to say that violence and destruction cannot and should not be a normal part of our lives in the city. I don't want anyone to get desensitized to violence, and that's why we're standing here today. Because now, whenever we have homicides like this, it's a good reminder to say to folks that this is not normal. And I think sometimes people normalize homicides or shootings in urban environments. We should not do that. There are surrounding towns in Monroe County that go years without someone getting shot or there being a murder. I want that same thing here in Rochester. I want also people to know, the chief gave the number to Major Crimes and Crime Stoppers, and we want you to obviously use those numbers. But you also have Report It, which is run out of the mayor's office anonymously. We've gotten great tips from Report It over the years, over the last year, and that is, you can text Rochester to 63975 or download the Report It app that you can use to anonymously report information. On all of these incidences, someone knows something. We know someone knows something. And obviously we can't get into the investigatory process because we don't want to compromise any of the steps that the fine men and women of the Rochester Police Department have to take in order to solve these crimes. But someone knows something. There are witnesses. Your Ring camera may have caught something. You may have seen a car. You may have saw a person walking and saw a description. Or you were there when the violent incident took place. And if you don't want that on your conscience, you don't have to have that on your conscience. You could report it anonymously. You can call the mayor's office. If you use Report It, it goes directly to the mayor's office, and then we work with the Rochester Police Department to get them the information. Crime Stoppers is another way, and there's a reward if you use Crime Stoppers. We want to transform the way of thinking where people can know that this is not snitching, this is public safety. This isn't snitching. This is stopping someone from maybe one day hurting someone that might be in your family. And then I would say to the perpetrators, you can make it even easier on yourself where you don't have to run and look over your shoulder and figure out if someone is going to come and get you, or if you think you have to be on the run, come in and turn yourself in. And if you don't want to turn yourself in here, call the mayor's office and we'll help make arrangements. We cannot, and we will not, tolerate wanton violence in our community, even when it is between individuals who have disputes. And I have had people say to me, well, they're just disputing, don't worry about it. No, I am worrying about it because we cannot tolerate silly disputes, people being killed for silly reasons. And in many cases, in some of these homicides, and we can't go into detail, that is what it is, period. And then for those who are blatantly carrying illegal guns, we will continue to do everything we can, locally as well as with our partnership with the ATF, to make sure that we charge people federally. And I can't remember the number last year. Was it 100 or 200?
Yeah, between 100 and 200.
Between 100 and 200 people last year. We have ATF here on the ground, and if you're carrying an illegal gun, we are going to make sure that we bring federal charges. Because we cannot have people continuously thinking that they can carry guns. Now, the other thing that I continue to plead with our judicial system. If someone is carrying an illegal gun, the law says that you can consider their history and you can hold them. And we need to do more of that. We need to do more of that. We need to make sure that if someone is carrying an illegal, not a legal handgun, but if they're carrying an illegal gun, they need to be held. We use our federal tools to do that, and we will continue to do that. But I just want to impress upon the community to say that this is not normal, and if you know something, if you saw something, anonymously, you don't have to say your name. There are plenty of people that have used the reported system in the last year, and we have not identified them, and it has led to some success. 63975 reported. 63975, Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers. 423-9300. Major Crimes. 428-7157. I hope that the media, if you can please put all of those things out. We want to make sure that we bring these individuals to justice, but more importantly, we want to send a message that you're just not going to, that you cannot and should not be walking around Rochester carrying an illegal gun to use it to shoot and kill folks. And we are concerned about the homicides, but we're also just as concerned about the shootings, because the shootings lead to life-altering injuries that many people can't recover from. So you might live after you get shot, but you're going to be confined to a wheelchair, or you might be brain dead. We want to put a stop to it. We don't need to stand for this in Rochester. We're not going to stand for this in Rochester, and we're going to stay on top of it. We've made great progress over the last 2 years. But I have made clear I don't want that progress to stop. But we can't do it alone. So I appeal to anyone that saw anything related to these 3 homicides in the last 2 days to make sure that you come forward. This is not the Rochester we want to be a part of. We don't want to be a Rochester where we have people dying senselessly, and that's what we have here, are senseless homicides. The good news is we can do something about it by making sure we speak up. Speak up. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, as I've said many times, we can't do it alone. Prevention, intervention, suppression, right? The mayor's 3 points. We've got our part down. We've been working hard. We're going to keep working hard. We need help from the community. We need help from folks who know something. And even if you don't want to reach out to us, there's the Mayor's Office of Violence Prevention. There's Pathways to Peace. There's social agencies. Let someone know so maybe we can get ahead of something before it becomes a violent dispute. I'll take a few questions.
Chief, the third homicide here, the taxi cab driver, was this a marked taxi cab? Do you believe he was hired and then attacked? Do you believe he was randomly stopped? Can you give us some more detail on this? Because I assume anyone who drives a taxi cab or an Uber in town would see this and be frightened.
Yeah, I don't have any of that at this point.
So,
Frank?
It was a marked taxi,
the marked taxi.
yes, and we do believe he was transporting a fare at the time.
So I guess your sort of message to people, there's a lot of regular people in the city who drive an Uber or a Lyft or a taxi who might see this and be frightened now about these circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, reminders that, Uber, Lyft, they have measures in place to protect you if you're an Uber driver. So make sure you're using those measures, not just, randomly picking folks up at the corner that are flagging you down. Anyone else?
Or either chief or mayor, in terms of the gun violence state of emergency that's been active obviously for the last several months, with that toolbox, is there anything related to any of these three homicides that had been enacted under the gun
No.
violence state of emergency?
No, I can't, obviously we can't go in detail into the circumstances, but if somebody's having an interpersonal dispute on a property or something like that, a gun violence state of emergency would not have done anything to prevent that, right? However, the gun violence state of emergency is just a tool that we can use for certain instances, mainly large gatherings, those types of things when they're happening. But there's just some things that the Rochester Police Department or the City of Rochester can't stop, and you can't stop an argument between two people that might escalate into violence, and that's something that is a challenge. But we have to continue to zero in on individuals that carry illegal guns. because if you're not carrying an illegal gun, it's less likely that you're going to pull it out and use it to exact violence on people. So the zeroing in on individuals that are carrying illegal firearms, that's a key piece that is extremely important. But I want to be clear. I wish the gun violence state of emergency prevented everything. That's only just one tool that we have in our toolbox to be able to do that. It definitely would not have, at least from my understanding so far in these cases, it would not have sadly prevented these two incidences.
And would you please elaborate on what you'd like to see specifically from the judicial system when it comes to holding folks in their resources available if they are out?
I would like to see them look at the totality of what the individuals have done in the past. If someone is arrested within a certain time period and it's been repeated, for example, criminal possession of a weapon, that used to be a big deal, and it still should continue to be a big deal, and that should be taken into consideration. On the federal level, which we use and we have and will continue to use, if you are on parole or probation and you are carrying a firearm, you're held. You are held. And if they're not held, bail should at least be used as a tool. That's the purpose of bail. So if you are arrested on a criminal possession of a weapon, that is a bail eligible offense. So you can set bail for criminal possession of a weapon. So anybody arrested for criminal possession of a weapon, because we know that these guns lead to violence. And if you're carrying an illegal gun, 9 times out of 10, that's going to lead to violence, because that means that you're not going through the proper protocol to go to the county clerk's office, to go get, to go in front of a judge to make sure that you're able to be carrying a gun. So they need to use those tools that are in their toolbox. They have the ability to do that, and they need to make sure that people are being held that are carrying illegal guns, or at least that bail is used as a tool in these cases.
How many times have you got calls to the mayor's office with him?
Tons. I mean, and the sad thing, we get 2 types of calls in the mayor's office that are extremely sad. A lot of the calls we get, and then we forward them over to the police department, or I may call the chief to say, can you tell me about this case, are individuals whose family members have been victims of homicides. I'm looking at one of my staff members back there. Regularly. They call, and they just want to know. They want us to know the effect that it's having on their life. They want us to know if there's anything else that we can do. There's certain people that literally call the mayor's office on a monthly basis if the crime hasn't been solved yet. And then the other thing, we get lots of tips. Lots of tips, mainly most of the calls to the mayor's office are around drugs, quality of life issues that are happening, and then we try to route those to other places, which we like, because we have to be partners in this. The Rochester Police Department cannot do this by themselves. Violence prevention can't do this by themselves. It's a 3-legged stool. It's City Hall, it's the police department, it's the community, and when all 3 of us work together, that's when we see success, and we have seen success because of that. So it is.
Do people call you with homicide tips? Because that's what you're asking for today.
Yes, people.
They trust you more than they may trust somebody.
No, I don't think that that's the case. I think it depends. It depends. But we have gotten homicide tips absolutely through the mayor's office, and we want to encourage people to feel free to do it. That's why we have reported. We don't care who they call. Okay, we don't care who they call. We give multiple options. Major crimes, we have that information out there. Crime Stoppers, we have that information out there. And then Report It, which is through City Hall. So there are 3 multiple options. And then you can even add a 4th if you say through violence prevention. So there are multiple, and you can add a 5th, a community-based organization. And tips come from all of those places, So I hope that anyone listening to this will feel free to call Major Crimes, Crime Stoppers, or the mayor's office to give us tips on any of these homicides that just took place.
Just to piggyback real quick on what the mayor was saying, it's not just pretrial detention in these gun arrests. We had a case recently where we had someone who was convicted of an illegal gun and then was awaiting to report for their sentencing because they were given time to report. We caught them with another illegal gun. What is the purpose of having an illegal gun If you have an illegal gun, you have it because you're going to commit a crime. It needs to be taken more seriously. We're not talking about someone being detained in Monroe County Jail because they committed a petty larceny. We're talking about someone with an illegal weapon on the streets of Rochester, some of which have magazines, extended magazines, to hold multiple rounds. There is no reason to have that unless you're going to commit other crimes with it. I saw your hand.
Just a quick follow-up for the mayor as well, and for either of you really, in terms of just seeking those tips as well. What does it take, especially for people that do know or are close enough victim awareness week as well, but for people who may be fearful to say
No, fear is real. That's why people don't come forward. But there are lots of resources there. The DA's office has support. Rise Up Rochester, who we partner with. Rise Up Rochester actually moves people. They take them to other places away from the city of Rochester to help them do that. So we can do that. But if it's an anonymous tip, it does not have to be you. I recently someone came up to me and they said, I was an anonymous tip. Does anyone know who I am? I said, no, you're anonymous. You're anonymous. I said, I know you sent the tip because you just told me you did. But I wouldn't have known. So these are real life situations. These aren't things that we're making up. Anonymous tips are extremely helpful. Sometimes they may not result in anything, right? But they can be followed up on. It was a black car with this license plate. It was this individual with a green hat. Nothing is too small. You see something, say something. That will help. It helps to have, instead of 200 eyes, imagine if you have 2,000 eyes. And that's what that's the message that we want to get out.
And that's exactly what our Smart Policing Initiative does that we started here in Rochester many years ago, is if officers are aware of something minor, they report it. And we have MCAC take a look at it, and everything is graded. So do we think this is something that could escalate? But even if it's still very minor, we put resources on it from the very beginning to try and intervene at the lowest possible level. But again, we cannot do it without information, without people letting us know what's going on.
Let's circle back on the taxi cab for a minute. Do you believe this taxi cab driver specifically was targeted and there was some sort of dispute? I mean, you guys are kind of saying, kind of leading maybe us to believe that it's mostly disputes among people who knew each other. So, does this case follow that same thought pattern?
It's too early to tell for any of these three specifically, but I can tell you the trend of most of these resulting from disputes continues, and we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.